The tick of the chronometer was the only sound left. One human battleship held position above the wreckage. 4,200 ships had just run from it. The ship's hull was scarred, its weapons cold. It had not fired first. The chronometer's cracked crystal caught the dim light of a dying sun. Admiral Cale stood at the viewport. He did not speak. On the Corvathi flagship, the silence lasted 14 minutes. Grand Admiral Dren's black armor was still warm from the bridge heat. His 1,244-year doctrine of victory was gone. The human broadcast had been one sentence. They counted the ships, they never counted the silence. Captain Soren Vasquez heard it again in his head. His teeth clicked together, a Corvathi stress-del he could not stop. He looked at the tactical display. 27 Corvathi capital ships were gone. 3,400 impacts had been registered on the human hull. The hull had not failed. The human ship had not pursued. It just sat there, ticking like the watch on its admiral's wrist. Vasquez had never seen anything like it. He had served 12 campaigns. He had watched Dren take 3 systems with 0 casualties. He had never seen a ship absorb fire and stay silent. The chronometer's tick was the only rhythm left on the bridge. Grand Admiral Dren's gill slits flared open. He was breathing hard. His adjutant, Commander Thess, reached for the hologram controls. Thess's hands were trembling. The 43 gold sigils on Dren's armor seemed to mock him now. One for every system conquered. None for the one that just broke him. Vasquez watched the human ship on the main display. The Meridian had not moved a meter since the second volley. Its hull was blackened and scored, but its reactor signature was steady. Its weapon ports were cold. Dren finally spoke. "Get me a damage report." Thess's voice cracked. "Sir, the report says the human hull is at 87% integrity." 87%, Dren's vertical pupils narrowed. 3,400 impacts, Thess said. Everyone was plasma, everyone was our standard load. The hull chemistry was designed to dissipate it. They built that ship to eat our fire. Vasquez's teeth clicked louder. He had run the scans himself. He had seen the atomic structure of the plating. It was not a warship. It was a countermeasure. The human ship had been waiting for this moment for longer than Dren had been alive. Dren turned to face the bridge. Who authorized this intelligence failure? No one answered. Vasquez kept his eyes on his console. He had a small red light pulsing at 4.7 hertz. It had been pulsing for the entire engagement. He had noticed it when the Meridian first appeared. He did not know what it meant. He did not ask. In the Corvathi Dominion, you did not ask questions. You watched. You recorded. You did not speak. Vasquez was very good at watching. That was what made him dangerous. The red light pulsed. 4.7 hertz. His heart, without his permission, began to beat at 4.7 hertz. You want to know what happened before this moment. So do I. Let me start at the beginning. 12 hours earlier, the Onyx throne was not silent. It was the loudest ship in the fleet. 4,200 vessels were assembling at the edge of the Cale corridor. The asteroid-dense region was the last barrier before the human system. The Corvathi Dominion had classified the humans as primitive Class 7 Deathworlders 44 years ago. The classification had never been updated. No one had thought to update it. Grand Admiral Dren stood on the command dais. His black ceremonial plate gleamed under the tactical holograms. His voice carried across the 43-meter crescent of the war room. 14 minutes, he said. That is the time required to pacify this system. The humans have no fleet. They have no shields. They have no weapon that can penetrate a Corvathi capital ship's armor. We will broadcast the standard terms. They will comply, or they will be removed. Commander Thess calibrated the holographic displays. His hands were steady then. Adjunct Kale, the 341-year-old logistics officer, adjusted his spectacles. He had once told Vasquez that victory was a drug. It made you forget you could overdose. Vasquez stood at his tactical observer's console. He was 83 years old, gray at the ridges of his gill slits. He had been watching human transmission for 14 of his 12 campaigns. He knew their electromagnetic signatures. He knew their broadcast patterns. He knew they were not primitive. He had never said that out loud. Dren opened a channel to the human system. Attention, primitive world. You will stand aside. If you comply, you will be cataloged as a low-priority population. Resistance will result in your complete destruction. You have 5 of your minutes. The human reply came from the planet. It was not a transmission. It was an echo. Vasquez caught it on a secondary frequency. A single repeating pulse. It had been repeating for 44 years. He had seen it before in the archived logs. Everyone had dismissed it as cultural noise. But Vasquez had a trained ear. He listened to the pulse now, in real time. It was not random. It was a pattern. A pattern that looked to his ear like someone was counting. Dren laughed when the human reply came. They have been transmitting noise for 44 years, he said. Primitive electromagnetic pulses. Cultural artifacts. Nothing of military value. Vasquez did not laugh. He ran a pattern analysis on the archived human broadcasts. 44 years of data. He did it quietly, without announcing it. His console showed a match. The pulse had changed frequency 7 times in the last 4 decades. Each change corresponded to a Corvathi fleet exercise. Vasquez felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The humans had been listening. They had been listening the entire time. They had been counting. He looked up at the main display. The Corvathi fleet was in formation. 4,200 ships. 2,400,000 soldiers. Dren's flagship sat at the center of the crescent. The war room was filled with certainty. Vasquez had felt that certainty 12 times before. It had never been wrong. He was questioning it now. His teeth clicked once. No one heard. The fleet entered the Kale corridor. The asteroids were thick, dark, and silent. The ships navigated through the debris field with practiced ease. This was routine. This was the 1244th year of unbroken conquest. The Dominion had never lost. Vasquez's console still showed the counting pulse. It had not stopped. It was stronger now. It was coming from inside the asteroid belt. Not from the planet. From the rocks. He zoomed in on the signal source. One object. One ship. It had been hidden in the belt for 44 years. It had been waiting. The human ship detached from the asteroid it had been anchored to. It did not transmit. It did not fire. It simply appeared, 12 kilometers from the lead Corvathi vessel. Vasquez's teeth clicked again. Louder this time. Dren looked at the display. One ship, he said. One human battleship. He laughed again. Scramble the attack wings. Destroy it in the first pass. The Corvathi attack wings moved forward. 300 fighters. 50 destroyers. 12 cruisers. They closed on the human ship. The human ship did nothing. 7 seconds passed. 14 seconds. 22 seconds. Vasquez watched the human ship's thruster signature. It was not random. It was calculating. The ship made a small movement. A lateral adjustment. 37 degrees to port. It placed itself in the exact center of a blind spot in the Corvathi formation. Vasquez saw the blind spot on his display. He had seen it before. In the doctrine manual. A margin note, 800 years old, describing a gap in the standard formation. A gap that lasted for 1.8 seconds. A gap that nobody had ever paid attention to. The humans had paid attention. The Meridian fired its first volley. 3 Corvathi capital ships exploded. The war room went silent. Dren's gill slits flared. "Return fire," he shouted. The Corvathi ships opened up. Plasma bolts hammered the human hull. Vasquez's display registered the impacts. 100. 500. 1,000. The human hull showed damage. Then it showed repair systems activating. The speed was impossible. The Corvathi could not explain it. The human ship fired a second volley. 9 more capital ships fell. The formation collapsed. Vasquez watched the doctrine of 1,244 years dissolve in front of him. His hands were shaking. His teeth were clicking so loud that Tess finally looked over. "What is wrong with you?" Tess asked. Vasquez did not answer. He was watching the human ship absorb fire. 2,000 impacts. 2,500. 3,000. The hull was scarred but intact. Its weapons were still cold after the second volley. It had not fired a third time. It did not need to. The Corvathi fleet was in chaos. 27 capital ships were destroyed in 14 minutes. Dren's certainty was gone. He ordered a full retreat. The human ship did not pursue. It held position. Its broadcast came 4 seconds later, on the same open channel Dren had used. They counted the ships. They never counted the silence. Vasquez stared at the display. The human ship was still there. Its reactor was steady. Its weapons were cold. Its admiral was checking a mechanical chronometer. Vasquez could see the chronometer on the visual feed. A 47-year-old wristwatch with a cracked crystal face. The second hand moved with a soft, audible tick. Vasquez could hear it through the microphone. Tick, tick, tick. The only sound on the bridge of the onyx throne. Dren's armor was still warm. His 43 gold sigils glinted in the dim light. He had taken 43 worlds. He had never lost. He had just lost to one ship that did not fire first. The red light on Vasquez's console was still pulsing at 4.7 hertz. He finally understood what it was. It was the human ship's data link. It had been broadcasting to the onyx throne for the entire engagement. It was still broadcasting. Vasquez opened the data stream. It was not a weapon. It was a file. A report. 44 years of Corvathi fleet exercises, transmissions, and tactical briefings. All analyzed. All mapped. All anticipated. The humans had been recording everything. They had known the Corvathi doctrine better than the Corvathi did. They had known the 1.8 second gap. They had known the plasma weapons frequency. They had known Dren would retreat. The red light stopped pulsing. The file was complete. Vasquez closed the stream. His teeth were still clicking. He looked at Dren. The Grand Admiral was staring at the empty display. The Meridian was still there. Tick, tick, tick. The chronometer's sound filled the silence. Vasquez realized something. The chronometer had been ticking for the entire engagement. It had been ticking for longer than Dren had been wrong. It had been ticking for the length of a civilization that had waited 44 years to act. He looked at his console. The data file had a title, Operation Silence. Below it, a single line of text, to be opened upon contact with the Corvathi Dominion. Vasquez opened it. The first paragraph was a message from Admiral Thorne Cale. To the observer who reads this, we have been listening for 4 decades. We know your formations. We know your weapons. We know your arrogance. We did not build a ship to fight you. We built a ship to survive you. And then we waited for you to come to us. You have counted everything except the one thing that matters. The silence of a species that has been watching. We are not primitive. We are patient. Now you know. Tick. Vasquez read the rest of the message. It was not a taunt. It was a summary. 44 years of Corvathi fleet movements, tactical doctrine, and command structures had been cross-referenced. Every exercise had been logged. Every transmission had been decoded. The humans had built a database that knew the Dominion better than the Dominion knew itself. At the bottom of the file was a timestamp, 2447, the year the surveillance began. That was the year the Corvathi first scouted the human system and classified them as Primitive Class 7. The humans had started listening the same year. Vasquez closed the file. His hands were cold. He looked at the main display. The Meridian asterisk was still there, its reactor signature steady, its weapons cold. It had not moved. It was waiting. Dren finally spoke. His voice was quiet. Get me a full diagnostic on that ship. I want to know exactly what we are dealing with. Thes worked his console. Sir, we are unable to scan at full resolution. The ship is emitting a dampening field. We can only read its reactor output and hull temperature. Then send a probe. We have no probes left, sir. We used them all in the first wave. Dren's gill slits flattened against his ribs. He turned away from the display. Recall the fleet to the rally point. I want a damage assessment from every vessel. The order went out. The Corvathi ships began to reform, limping back toward the rendezvous coordinates. Vasquez watched the display. The Meridian did not pursue. It simply rotated slightly, keeping its bow pointed at the retreating fleet. Vasquez noticed something. The chronometer, the one on the human admiral's wrist, was visible on the visual feed. The cracked crystal caught the light. The second hand moved. Tick, tick, tick. He could hear it through the open channel. The humans had left the microphone active. Dren heard it too. Shut that channel off. Thes killed the audio. The war room fell into a deeper silence. The only sound now was the hum of the environmental systems and the occasional click of Vasquez's teeth. Dren walked to his command chair and sat down heavily. The black armor creaked. The 43 gold sigils on his chest seemed to weigh him down. He stared at the empty space where the holographic display had shown his fleet. Vasquez's console pinged, a new message from the human ship. It was not a broadcast, it was a direct data packet addressed to his terminal. He opened it. It was a second file, smaller, a single paragraph. Captain Soren Vasquez, we have been watching you specifically for the last 6 years. You run pattern analyses on your off hours. You question doctrine in your private logs. You are not like the others. If you are reading this, you have survived. That is not an accident. We left a data trail that only you would follow. We need a witness. We need someone to tell the truth. The Dominion will try to bury this. Do not let them. TK. Vasquez read it twice. His teeth stopped clicking. His heart, which had been beating at 4.7 hertz, slowed to a normal rhythm. He looked around the bridge. No one was watching him. Thes was busy coordinating repairs. Dren was lost in thought. Adjunct Cale was staring at a damage report with trembling hands. Vasquez closed the message. He deleted it from his console's history. He would remember it word for word. The fleet regrouped 3 hours later. The tally was grim: 42 ships destroyed or crippled, 6,000 Corvathi dead. The Meridian had not fired a third shot. It had done its damage in 2 volleys and then stood still. Dren convened a war council in his private chamber. Vasquez was summoned. The chamber was smaller than the main bridge, lined with obsidian panels. A single holographic table showed the engagement replay. Dren sat at the head. Commander Thess stood to his right. Adjunct Kale was seated, his old eyes scanning the data. 2 other admirals who had commanded flanking elements were present via hologram. Dren began. We were outmaneuvered by a single ship. That ship had been hidden in the asteroid belt for 44 years. Our intelligence failed. Someone is responsible. He looked around the table. His vertical pupils settled on Vasquez. Captain, you were the tactical observer. What did you see? Vasquez hesitated. He had seen everything. He had seen the counting pulse. He had seen the blind spot. He had seen the hull chemistry. He had seen the data file. He had seen the personal message. He spoke carefully. The human ship executed a 37-degree lateral adjustment. That placed it in a formation gap that exists in our standard deployment. The gap is documented in the Tactical Manual, Section 12, Appendix 7, margin note added 800 years ago. It was never corrected. The room went still. Dren's gill slits flared. 800 years and no one noticed. The margin note was considered obsolete, Vasquez said. The formation was assumed to be optimal, but the humans had been studying our exercises. They knew exactly when the gap would open. How long did they know? 44 years, Vasquez said. They began listening the year we first scouted their system. They have a record of every fleet maneuver we have conducted since then. Adjunct Kale spoke for the first time. That explains the hull composition. They knew our primary weapon was plasma. They built a ship that could dissipate the energy. Vasquez nodded. The hull was designed for absorption and repair. They knew we would fire thousands of shots. They planned for it. One of the hologram admirals spoke. Then why did they stop at 2 volleys? They could have destroyed us all. Vasquez had wondered that too. He had a theory, but he did not voice it. He said, they did not need to destroy us. They only needed to show us that they could. They wanted a witness. Dren slammed his fist on the table. A witness to what? To their cowardice. They fired on an unarmed fleet. They fired after we fired, Vasquez said quietly. We gave the order to attack. They did not fire first. They waited. They let us commit. Then they demonstrated they could stop us. The chamber fell silent again. Vasquez could hear the hum of the table. He could hear his own breathing. Dren leaned forward. You sound like you are defending them. I am describing what I saw, Vasquez said. I am not defending anything. Dren stared at him for a long moment. Then he leaned back. The War Council will convene in full tomorrow. I want a complete report from every officer. Captain Vasquez, you will write the tactical analysis. Include everything you have just said. Do not embellish. Vasquez nodded. Yes, Grand Admiral. He returned to his quarters. His cabin was small, functional, with a single viewport looking out at the asteroid field. The Meridian was no longer visible. The fleet had retreated far enough that it was lost in the debris, but Vasquez could still hear the tick in his head. He sat at his desk. He opened a blank document. He began to write. He wrote the facts, the surveillance duration, the hull chemistry, the gap in formation, the impact count, the casualty figures. He wrote it all, but he did not include the personal message from Admiral Kale. He did not mention that he had been specifically targeted. He finished the draft at 300 hours. He saved it and sent it to Dren's command queue. Then he sat back and stared at the ceiling. His teeth clicked once. He was tired. He closed his eyes. 3 hours later, he was woken by a calm alert. The War Council was convening early. Dren had been relieved of command. Vasquez dressed quickly and walked to the main war room. The chamber was crowded. More than 40 officers had assembled, including admirals from the surviving fleet elements. Dren was standing at the center of the room, but he was no longer in command. His armor had been removed. He wore a plain black uniform. His golden sigils were gone. 2 junior officers flanked him. The new acting commander was a fleet admiral named Thess. Commander Thess, now promoted, stood at the holographic table. He looked older, more serious. He began the briefing. Grand Admiral Dren has been relieved pending investigation. His tactical decisions in the Kale Corridor are under review. The War Council has appointed me to lead the fleet until further notice. He turned to the display. We have analyzed the engagement. The human ship's capabilities exceed our projections. The hull damage was superficial. Their repair systems are faster than any we have encountered, and they possessed real-time intelligence on our formations. He looked around the room. Captain Vasquez's report indicates that the humans have been monitoring us for 44 years. That is not a speculation. That is a fact. We have confirmed it by cross-referencing his data with archive transmissions. A murmur went through the room. Vasquez felt dozens of eyes on him. He kept his face neutral. Thess continued. The War Council has authorized a full re-evaluation of the human threat classification. They are no longer primitive Class 7. They are now considered a peer-level adversary. All fleet doctrine is to be revised. He paused. Captain Vasquez, your report was thorough. The Council has requested that you expand it with additional details on the human surveillance methods. You will have full access to the archives. Vasquez nodded. I will begin immediately. Thess dismissed the assembly. Officers filed out in small groups, murmuring. Dren was escorted away by the junior officers. He did not look back. Vasquez stayed at his console. He opened the archive access Thess had granted. He searched for the human surveillance logs. He found them. They were extensive. Every transmission from every Corvathi ship had been recorded and catalogued. The humans had even decoded, encrypted command frequencies. He noticed something odd. The surveillance had increased in frequency over the last 6 years, the same period that Kale's message had mentioned. The humans had been watching him specifically. He found a file labeled SV. He opened it. It contained his own career record, his promotion dates, his campaign assignments, his private logs, the ones he had written in his quarters. The humans had accessed his encrypted personal storage. He felt a cold wash of fear. They knew everything. They had known he would question doctrine. They had known he would see the pattern. They had known he would survive. His teeth clicked. He closed the file. He thought about the message. We need a witness. We need someone to tell the truth. The Dominion will try to bury this. Do not let them. He looked at the door. The war room was empty. He was alone. He made a decision. He would write a second report, not the official one, the real one, the one that included the message, the one that told the entire truth about the surveillance, about the blind spot, about the hull chemistry, about the chronometer, about the patience of a species that had waited 44 years. He began to write. He wrote for hours. He wrote about the first transmission he had ever heard from the human system, a weak, garbled signal that had been dismissed as noise. He wrote about the counting pulse. He wrote about the 37-degree adjustment. He wrote about the moment the formation collapsed. He wrote about the silence of the human ship after its second volley. He wrote about the chronometer. He described its cracked crystal, its steady tick, its presence through the entire engagement. He wrote that it was not a weapon, but it was the most terrifying thing he had ever witnessed. He finished at 1800 hours. The report was 3,000 words. He saved it under a false name. He encrypted it and stored it in a hidden partition of his console. He sat back. He felt empty. His console beeped. A new message, not from the War Council, from an unknown origin. It was a simple text. The chronometer is still ticking. You can hear it if you listen. Vasquez froze. He turned up the volume on his bridge audio feed. The channel was silent, but then faintly he heard it. Tick, tick, tick. It was coming from the Meridian asterisk. The human ship was still broadcasting. It had never stopped. He looked at his display. The Meridian was no longer in the Kale corridor. It had moved. It was now positioned above the Onyx throne, directly above the bridge. Its weapons were still cold. Its reactor was still steady. It was waiting. Vasquez's teeth clicked. He realized that the engagement was not over. The humans were not done. They had shown the Dominion that they could win. Now they were showing them that they could choose not to. The chronometer's tick filled the silence of the war room. Tick, tick, tick. The tick was still there. Vasquez stood frozen at his console. The human ship hung directly above the Onyx throne, its bow pointed down like a judgment. Its reactor signature was unchanged. Its weapons were still cold, but it had moved without anyone noticing. Thess's voice came over the comm. All hands to battle stations. The human ship has repositioned. I want a full sensor sweep of the entire corridor. Vasquez watched the display. The Meridian was exactly 2,000 meters above the bridge. The chronometer's tick filled the war room audio channel. They had not turned it off again. It was a deliberate message. Thess entered the war room. He was dressed in his new command uniform, but he looked like he had not slept. His hands were steady, but his eyes were tired. Captain Vasquez, what do you make of this? Vasquez pulled up the sensor data. The ship moved during the fleet regroup. Our passive sensors did not detect it. They have some kind of stealth field. They could have fired on us, Thess said. Why didn't they? Vasquez had been thinking about that. Because they don't need to. They want us to know they can. They are demonstrating the gap between our capability and theirs. Thess stared at the display. We have a fleet of 4,200 ships. They have one, and they are demonstrating capability. Vasquez nodded. They are not trying to defeat us. They are trying to teach us something. Thess turned to him. Teach us what? Vasquez thought about the message he had deleted. That we have been wrong for 1,244 years. That victory is not the natural order. That our doctrine is based on ignorance, not strength. Thess was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Come with me. We need to talk privately." They walked to Thess's private office. The room was small, cramped, lined with data terminals. Thess closed the door. "I read your report," he said. "The official one, it was thorough, but I know you left things out." Vasquez met his gaze. "What makes you say that?" "Because I know you, Vasquez. You have been questioning doctrine for years. I have seen your private logs. You are not the loyal observer you pretend to be." Vasquez's teeth clicked. "You accessed my logs." "I had to," Thess said. "After Dren was relieved, the council ordered a review of all senior staff. I found your logs. You questioned the classification. You questioned the formation. You questioned the war itself." Vasquez sat down. "And what did you do with that information?" "I deleted it," Thess said. "I did not report it to the council." Vasquez stared at him. "Why?" Thess leaned forward. "Because I have been questioning too. I have served for 127 years. I have seen the Dominion conquer worlds. I have seen the price of that conquest. The planets we took, they were not all empty. Some of them had people who fought. Some of them had people who had been watching us the way the humans did. We ignored them. We always ignore the ones who watch." Vasquez felt a strange kinship. He had never expected Thess to understand. "Then you know why I left things out." "I know you received a message from the human ship," Thess said. "I saw the data packet. I did not open it. I wanted to give you the chance to tell me yourself." Vasquez took a breath. "The humans have been watching me specifically. They want me to be a witness. They want someone to tell the truth about what happened here. They know the Dominion will try to bury this. Tess nodded slowly. And what truth will you tell? Vasquez considered the question. That we were outweighted, that we built our victory on the ignorance of others, that we never fought an enemy that knew how to fight. Tess sat back. That will not be popular. I do not care about popularity, Vasquez said. I care about what happened. 27 capital ships destroyed, 6,000 dead, and the human ship did not fire a single shot after we retreated. They could have destroyed us all. They chose not to. That is not something we can ignore. Tess was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, I will support your testimony, but I need to know one thing. Are there more human ships? Did they only send one? Vasquez had not considered that. He opened his archive access and pulled up the surveillance logs. He searched for any mention of other human vessels. He found something. There was a file labeled Second Fleet. He opened it. It contained a record of human ship movements in 3 other sectors the Dominion had considered secure. The humans had been building ships for decades. They had hidden them in asteroid belts, gas giants, and deep space debris fields. Vasquez's teeth clicked. He looked at Tess. There are more, at least 3 other fleets. They are positioned near our supply lines. They have been there for years. Tess's face went pale, and we never detected them. The same way we never detected this one, Vasquez said. They have been hiding, they have been waiting, they have been watching. Tess stood up. I need to inform the council immediately. Wait, Vasquez said. If you tell them now, they will panic. They will order a counterattack. They will send the fleet to engage the other ships, and they will lose. The humans are prepared for that. They have been preparing for years. Tess stopped. Then what do we do? Vasquez thought about the chronometer. He thought about the tick. He thought about the message. We need a witness. He made a decision. We negotiate. We open a channel. We ask them what they want. The council will not like it, but it is better than losing the entire fleet. Tess stared at him. You are asking me to surrender. I am asking you to survive, Vasquez said. Surrendering is not the same as winning, but it is better than being destroyed by a species that has already beaten us without firing a full volley. Tess walked to the door. He paused. I will bring it to the council, but I will need you to speak. You are the one who saw it. You are the one who understands. Vasquez nodded. I will speak. The War Council convened an hour later. The room was full, admirals, commodores, fleet captains. The holographic table showed the meridian still above the onyx throne. The chronometer's tick was audible through the open channel. No one turned it off. Tess opened the briefing. We have received new intelligence from Captain Vasquez. The humans have more ships, at least 3 fleets positioned near our supply lines. They have been there for years. We were unaware. A murmur went through the room. An admiral from the flanking force spoke. How is that possible? We have security protocols. We have patrols. The patrols were ineffective, Vasquez said. The humans used stealth technology we did not anticipate. They hid in debris fields and asteroid belts. They monitored our movements without detection. They have been preparing for this for 44 years. The room went still. The admiral asked, What do you recommend? Vasquez stepped forward. I recommend that we open a channel. We ask the humans what they want. We do not attack. We do not threaten. We ask. Another officer scoffed. Ask. A peer-level adversary does not ask. It demands. Then we listen to the demand, Vasquez said. We have already lost this engagement. We lost it before it began, when we dismissed the human transmissions as noise, when we ignored the pattern in their signals, when we assumed they were primitive. The humans have been teaching us a lesson for 44 years. We should learn it before they decide to teach us another one. The room erupted in debate. Some officers agreed with Vasquez. Others called him a coward. Tess let them argue. He watched the holographic display, his face unreadable. Vasquez looked at the display too. The meridian was still there. The chronometer's tick was a steady pulse. Tick, tick, tick. He counted the beats. Each one was a second of patience. Each one was a second of truth. The debate lasted 3 hours. The council could not agree. Some wanted to attack. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to wait. Thess finally called for a recess. He pulled Vasquez aside. The council is divided. If we cannot reach a decision, we will do nothing, and doing nothing is the worst option. Vasquez nodded. I have an idea. Let me open a channel. Let me speak to the human ship directly. I will ask them what they want. If they answer, I will bring the answer to the council. Thess considered it. You are a tactical observer. You have no diplomatic authority. I am a witness, Vasquez said. They wanted a witness. Let me be one. Thess looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, do it. Vasquez walked to his console. He opened a channel to the meridian. He spoke clearly in the standard diplomatic language of the Dominion. Human ship, this is Captain Soren Vasquez of the Corvathi Dominion. I am not speaking for the council. I am speaking as myself. I want to know what you want. What do you want from us? The channel was silent for a long time. The tick continued. Then a voice came through. It was quiet, calm, human. It was Admiral Kale. Captain Vasquez, we have been waiting for you to ask that question. We do not want your planets. We do not want your resources. We want your silence. We want you to stop expanding. We want you to leave the other systems alone. And we want the truth told about what happened here today. Vasquez felt his pulse quicken. And if we refuse? We will show you what we can do, Kale said. We have 3 more fleets. They are positioned at your supply lines. If you attack, they will destroy your logistics. If you retreat, they will follow. If you negotiate, they will not fire. The choice is yours. Vasquez paused. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked, Kale said. And because you are the one who will tell the truth. We have been watching you, Vasquez. We know you will not lie. Vasquez closed the channel. His hands were shaking. He looked at Thess. They want us to stop expanding. They want the truth told. And they have 3 more fleets. Thess's face was pale. Then we have no choice. Except one, Vasquez said. We can choose to tell the truth first. We can make the council understand. If we tell them what happened, if we show them the data, the surveillance, the hull chemistry, they will see that we cannot win. They will have to negotiate. Thess nodded slowly. Then we tell them together. They walked back to the council chamber. Vasquez addressed the assembled officers. He told them everything. He told them about the 44 years of surveillance. He told them about the 37-degree adjustment. He told them about the hull chemistry. He told them about the chronometer. He told them about the message from Kale. The room was silent when he finished. The admiral from the flanking force stood up. You are saying we have been defeated by a species we classified as primitive. No, Vasquez said. We have been taught a lesson by a species that has been watching us for 44 years. That is not defeat. That is education. If we learn the lesson, we survive. If we do not, we will be destroyed. The admiral sat down. The room remained silent. Thess spoke. I am calling for a vote. The motion is to open negotiations with the human ship. All in favor. A few hands went up, then a few more, then a dozen, then most of the room. Thess counted the votes. The motion passes. We will open negotiations. The council adjourned. Vasquez stood alone in the war room. The chronometer's tick was still audible through the open channel. It was still ticking. He looked up at the display. The meridian was still there. Its weapons were cold. Its reactor was steady. It was waiting. Vasquez sat at his console. He opened his hidden file, the one with his true testimony. He read it again. Then he made a decision. He would submit it to the council. He would tell the full truth. He would be the witness the humans wanted. The chronometer ticked. Tick, tick, tick. Vasquez submitted his testimony before the council could adjourn. He stood at the holographic table and opened the encrypted file. The room was half empty. Some officers had already left. Thess was still there, watching him. So was the admiral from the flanking force and a handful of others. Vasquez did not wait for permission. "This is the full truth," he said, "not the official report. Not the version that protects our doctrine. This is what happened." He projected the file onto the main display. The text scrolled. The 44 years of surveillance logs, the decoded transmissions, the fleet exercise records that matched the human pattern, the hull chemistry analysis, the 37-degree adjustment, the blind spot, the chronometer. The room grew quiet. An officer spoke. "This document was classified. How did you obtain it?" Vasquez did not answer. He pointed to the message from Kale. "Read that." The officer read it. His face changed. He looked at Vasquez. "They have been watching you." "They have been watching all of us," Vasquez said. "For 44 years. They know our supply routes, our formation schedules, our command structures. They know we have never lost. They also know that means we have never learned." The admiral from the flanking force stepped closer. "And you received this message directly, without reporting it?" "Yes," Vasquez said. "I deleted it from the official record. I kept it for this moment, because I knew the council would try to bury it. I knew the truth would be inconvenient, but I also knew that if we did not tell it, we would lose more than one engagement. We would lose everything." The admiral stared at him. "You are admitting to insubordination, to concealment of intelligence." "I am admitting to survival," Vasquez said. "If I had reported it, you would have suppressed it. You would have called it propaganda. You would have continued the same doctrine that led to the destruction of 27 capital ships. Now you have the chance to see the truth. The choice is yours." The room fell silent. The chronometer's tick was the only sound still broadcasting from the meridian. Vasquez turned up the audio. The tick filled the chamber. He reached for the carafe on the table and poured a cup of water. He did not drink it. He simply held it. The mundane act contrasted with the gravity of the moment. Then he set the cup down. "I am not asking you to surrender. I am asking you to listen. The humans do not want our planets. They want our silence. They want us to stop expanding. They have 3 fleets positioned at our supply lines. If we refuse, they will destroy our logistics. If we accept, they will not fire. That is the negotiation." The admiral sat down. His face was unreadable. "And if we accept?" "What then?" "Then we tell the truth," Vasquez said. "To our own people, to the other systems. We tell them that we were beaten by patience, that we were outweighted. That victory for 1,244 years taught us nothing except how to be wrong." The chronometer ticked. Thess spoke. "I will second the motion. We will open negotiations with the human ship. We will cease expansion in this sector. And we will release Captain Vasquez's full testimony to the War Council archives." The admiral looked at Thess. "That is unprecedented." "We are in unprecedented territory," Thess said. "We have been defeated by one ship that did not fire first. That is not something we can hide. That is not something we should hide. That is the lesson we have been avoiding for 1,244 years." The admiral nodded slowly. "I will vote in favor." Other officers did the same. One by one they raised their hands. The vote passed. Vasquez walked to his console. He opened a channel to the meridian. He spoke clearly. "We accept your terms. We will negotiate. We will tell the truth." Kale's voice came through. "Then the war is over, not with a victory but with an understanding. That is what we wanted." The channel closed. The meridian began to move. It rose from its position above the onyx throne and headed back toward the asteroid belt. Its reactor signature remained steady. Its weapons remained cold. The chronometer's tick continued for a few more seconds. Then it faded. The audio channel was cut. Vasquez stood alone at his console. The war room was emptying. Tess approached him. You did well. The council will ratify the decision. I will see that your testimony is published. Vasquez nodded. Thank you. Tess paused. What will you do now? Vasquez looked at the display. The meridian was gone. The Kale corridor was empty, but he could still hear the tick in his mind. I will write the final report, he said. The one that goes to the archives, the one that will be read for centuries. I will tell it exactly as it happened. He walked back to his quarters. He sat at his desk. He opened a blank document. He wrote, on the 1244th year of the Corvathi Dominion's unbroken conquest, we encountered a species that had been watching us for 44 years. We dismissed them as primitive. We were wrong. They did not fire first. They did not need to. He wrote for hours. He described every detail, the counting pulse, the 37-degree adjustment, the hull chemistry, the chronometer. He described the moment the formation collapsed. He described the silence of the human ship after its second volley. He described the broadcast. They counted the ships. They never counted the silence. He finished at dawn. He saved the document. He encrypted it and sent it to the War Council archives. Then he walked to the bridge of the Onyx throne. The bridge was empty. The crew had been dismissed. The holographic displays were dark. The only light came from the emergency panels. He walked to the spot where Dren had stood during the engagement. He looked down. On the deck near the command dais lay a small object, a mechanical chronometer. The crystal face was cracked. The second hand was moving. Tick, tick, tick. Vasquez picked it up. It was warm from the ship's ambient heat. He turned it over. On the back was an inscription, to TK from his father, Pacific Theater, 1944. He held it to his ear. The tick was steady. It had been ticking for the entire engagement. It was still ticking. He sat down on the dais. He held the chronometer in his palm. He listened. Tick, tick, tick. He knew in that moment that the Dominion's 1244-year doctrine of victory was built on a foundation of ignorance, that the human ship had not fired first because it did not need to, that the silence of a species that had been watching was the most powerful weapon of all. He did not say it out loud. He did not write it down. He just sat there, listening to the tick of a dead man's watch. The tick was the only sound left. He could not stop listening to it.